The rock music of the late 1980s was big, it was loud, it was flashy, it was dripping in hairspray, and the guitar solos of this era reflected that. They were these Olympic-esque feats of technicality, speed, and theater, but then in 1991, one guitar solo changed everything. It was raw, it was ugly, but it was perfect. This is the story of how a simple guitar part hammered the nail into the coffin of the music that came before it.
Grunge is not for everyone.
Nirvana to me was the most significant thing since the Beatles.
That's when we knew that the musical landscape had completely turned upside down.
And before we get to it, I'll quickly let you know I got a special offer. When you join the Samurai Guitar Dojo, you're not only going to get in for $7.50 a month, but you're also going to get my course, The Craft of Soloing, which is normally $80, completely free as a welcome gift. The dojo is my weekly lesson program designed to give guitar players a path. Every week we do a lesson, I show you one thing that you're going to be able to get under your fingers, and before long, the new skills are going to start stacking up. There's a growing community there. Every month we do a live Zoom hangout where I can talk to you guys directly and address your specific guitar issues. There's a large backlog of lessons that you also instantly gain access to. With a special promo for this video only, you get my course, The Craft of Soloing, completely free. In this course, I teach you about how to tell a story through a solo. When so many guitar players solo, it sounds like they're just running up and down scales. It's a bunch of notes, it doesn't sound like music. In this course, I show you that missing link between you and your favorite guitar players, how to tell a musical story, how to treat it like a language. You can get this promo with a link in the description. Anyways, let's get to it. Now, one of the defining features of 80s rock music were these big, over-the-top climactic guitar solos, and this was kind of the pinnacle of a general direction the guitar had been taking for 30-odd years. In the 50s, we see the invention of the solid-body electric guitar, which allowed guitar players like Chuck Berry to take lead breaks that would have otherwise been reserved for saxophonists and horn players. The instrument is new, popular guitar playing is somewhat rudimentary, the limits of it have yet to be explored. In the 1960s, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, and their peers stand on the shoulders of their forefathers and push things one step further. This trend continues through the 70s with guys like Jimmy Page, and then Eddie Van Halen comes along and completely redefines what the limits of the instrument are. Shred guitar is officially the coolest thing in the world. Everybody wants to try their hand at what Eddie's doing. And that brings us to the hair metal era. And man, I only spent 3 years in the 80s, and looking back at that genre of music, it certainly was something. It's like if you took all the ridiculous, extravagant stereotypes of rock and roll from the past decades and turned them up even more. That's rock music in the 80s. Bigger hair, tighter clothes, higher pitched vocals, more decadence, and guitar solos that were becoming more and more epic. And this music dominated the airwaves. Bands like Motley Crue, Winger, Poison were all the rage. And each one of these glam bands had a guitar hero center stage, and these shredders had turned technical ability into a sport. I mean, if you couldn't sweep pick arpeggios at 180 beats per minute, or tap out everything with both hands, were you even really a guitar player in the 80s? See, it's this era that the guitar solo reached an overindulgent tipping point. Here's my best effort at playing something in this vein so you can hear what it sounded like. People loved this stuff. MTV was flooded with it. Record labels were flush. They were churning out hair metal bands by the dozen. Everybody wanted a piece of this stuff. But musical trends, they're interesting. They'll follow a predictable path for a while. People will do the same thing that the last guy did, but more so. Last guy played a fast guitar solo, you do it faster. Last guy had big hair, yours is poofier. But you can only play a guitar solo so impressive, you can only floof your hair up so much. That cool new thing starts to grow old if there's nowhere interesting for it to go.
You get this kind of dinosaur music mentality going on where everybody looks the same, everybody sounds the same, and we're getting into that again.
See, that technical perfection, the musical verbosity that made up a hair metal guitar solo was the thing that hooked people into it, but it was also ultimately its Achilles heel. Because the 90s comes along, and there's something in the air. You can see this happen a number of times throughout the course of musical history, but for every musical force, there comes along an equal and opposite musical reaction force. Things follow that predictable direction for a while, then boom, a pop culture grenade goes off, and suddenly what used to be cool is suddenly uncool. Everyone starts doing the opposite. And this comes along in 1991, one man playing a guitar solo so simple that it's the first thing that many of us learn on the instrument. A band from Seattle called Nirvana releases their second album, Nevermind. And the lead-off single from this album, Smells Like Teen Spirit, takes the world by storm. And the guitar solo from the song, it's not pretty, it's not flashy, it's not particularly impressive. It's simply Kurt Cobain playing the main melody almost mockingly. And somehow, despite what everybody was just into, this deeply resonated with people. It was almost like Kurt Cobain saying, I don't need to impress you. In a world where guitar solos had become almost sporting events, this was the opposite. But for all the technicality that it's lacking, it makes up for that in dividends with the feeling of raw, honest emotion. There's nothing fancy from the notes to the tones, single coil pickup, cheap distortion pedal, chorus effect, and there you have it. It was the first thing that I ever learned to play on the instrument. You get a song that's as different and popular as Smells Like Teen Spirit, and now everybody wants to do that thing. What used to be cool is now uncool. And so much of what Nirvana and Kurt Cobain were was the antithesis of hair metal. You look at a band like Warrant. They're pretty, clean shaven, their hair is styled, they have makeup, they're basically wearing costumes. Clearly, a lot of time and effort went into looking this way, whereas with Nirvana, it's just a bunch of dudes who look like they're wearing whatever they were wearing when they woke up 20 minutes ago. Their music is raw and unpolished, whereas before, everything was slick and overproduced. Lyrics of hair metal, pretty surface level, whereas with grunge, it's darker, it's heavier, it's deeper. This music, in every way, is that opposing force that comes along at that perfect moment in time to change everything. But I do think it'd be oversimplifying saying that Smells Like Teen Spirit was the only bullet that ended hair metal. I mean, the music had been around for over 10 years, which is quite a while in the musical life cycles. A reaction was overdue, things were bubbling to the surface. I mean, you look at the other music that came out around this time period. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, both the Use Your Illusions by Guns N' Roses, Metallica's Black Album. I mean, change was clearly in the air. I found this one comment that nicely describes this cultural shift. At some point that winter, after the onslaught of this great new music, I remember playing Dr. Feelgood by Motley Crue and being completely turned off by it. Skid Row, Bon Jovi, Poison, suddenly it sounded dated and naff, formulaic pop rock with no substance. I just stopped listening to it. The world had moved on from glam rock, the solos were too pristine, the music felt fake. In a post Kurt Cobain world, real is what matters, and the shredding guitar solos did not encompass that. And the great thing about Smells Like Teen Spirit solo is that the barrier to entry is low. Everybody can play that. So many new kids started playing the instrument because they felt like they could do that, whereas the guitar solos that came before felt too big, too far off. And all these new people who were brought into the instrument wanted something different than so many of their predecessors. They weren't trying to build on that thing, to outdo that thing. A seismic shift had occurred. Hair metal was dead. Pushing the guitar solo further and further and further in the popular sphere was no longer a thing. And the funeral march that played was the solo to Smells Like Teen Spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That is the solo that killed a genre. Remember, you can join the Samurai Guitar Dojo and get those weekly lessons for only $7.49 a month. And when you do so, you're also going to get my course, The Craft of Soloing, which is normally $80, completely free. Picking up some of that Sammy G merch at shopsamuraiguitarist.com is a great way to support the show. Until next time, thank you all for watching. Look after yourselves, look after each other, look after the planet. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I'll see you again soon.